Welcome. My name is Lydia Carswell, and it is my pleasure today to be interviewing two of our residents from Duarte. Today we have John Fasana, who is the mayor of our city, and Michelle Silence, a resident of Duarte. And before we start the questions on our topic today, consumer fireworks, I'd like to ask both of these residents to tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start with John.
Well, thank you, Lydia, and thank you for hosting us today. I'm John Fasana. I'm the mayor of the city of Duarte. I've lived in the city since January of '85, so almost 34 years. I've been on the city council for about 31 of those years. So obviously we've seen a lot of changes in Duarte. We've made a lot of progress in a lot of areas, but we also are here today to address the issue of fireworks.
Thank you, John. Michelle?
Well, I'm here as part of the Duarte Safety First group, which is concerned about health and safety in the town. And I've lived in Duarte for about 30 years. I've seen a lot of things happen in the town, especially with fireworks over those 30 years, where they've gotten progressively worse. And we're just really concerned about it and want to, discuss it further and see what we can do.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, well, let's begin with the questions. I'd like to direct this first question to our mayor, John. John, what made you decide to support the ban on fireworks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say in the past, I actually didn't really buy fireworks in Duarte. That was more in my younger years. But I did help sell them in the booths for the Duarte Education Foundation. Worked several years selling the fireworks in the booths. So I know it's a fundraiser that has helped raise revenue throughout the community. But one night, I think it was on the 4th of July, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I actually received a call. It was either an email or a call from Michelle asking me to come down and see what was happening in her neighborhood. Now, I will say I live in the Fish Canyon area, in the area where actually fireworks are not allowed. Going and seeing on the night of July 4th what was happening in her neighborhood was unbelievable from the standpoint of noise, the racket, the mortars that were going off. It wasn't just what we call consumer or safe and sane fireworks, but while people were shooting those off, they were also shooting off these illegal mortars, the flash bang type equipment. They're making tremendous racket. They're setting off alarms. It really sounded like a war zone. And all I could think of was we've completely lost control of the city. This is crazy. And knowing what's happened with the weather and with the climate and the heat, and a few years later seeing the fire that we had as a reminder of what happened back in 1980, what ultimately will happen again. But also knowing that a lot of our homes are close together. It's not just hillsides that burn. It seemed like it was time to reassess positions. It was just getting out of control. And it's really, if you live south of Royal Oaks, I don't even know how you've put up for it this long. It's really unacceptable, and it's dangerous. People can't sleep. People can't prepare for their next day if they have to go to work the following day after the 4th. And the air quality, frankly, is terrible. It's unhealthy for everyone after you shoot these off.
Well, thank you, John. I have a few more questions, and the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to throw out a question, and either of you can feel free to start, and then the other can add on if you so wish. All right, my next question is, Measure F will ask to ban the sale and use of all consumer fireworks in Duarte. Why do you feel that fireworks should be banned in the city?
Well, there are a number of reasons why. In fact, about 6 months ago, we started researching this because I personally didn't know a whole lot about it. I just knew that the town was in a war zone, and I wanted to find out more, everything I could find out. So once we started researching the negative impact of fireworks, we realized there are all kinds of things that we really need to be aware of, because most people don't understand that fireworks impact so many parts of our lives. The environment is affected, it contaminates the air, the water, our wildlife are affected, pets, people who have pets, they have a horrible time trying to control their animals who are just traumatized by the sounds, that many of them tranquilize their pets. Our veterans suffer. We've got 3 different types of war veterans here now. And although some might have a perfectly okay time with it, many of them don't. And they're proud. They don't want to complain about it, but we're being disrespectful to them by all of the noise and commotion and chaos. So that's another issue. The issue of illegal activity being ushered in with the legal fireworks. That happens all the time. We invite the illegal activity with the legal fireworks. So we're really bringing crime to the city. You've got all those issues. You've got the packaging. Some of the packaging on these products are just immoral and offensive. There's over 30 reasons, really, when we really started looking at it, that are just negative. And we put those together, and anybody that wants to go and look at those can see those on the Doherty Band Fireworks website.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'll add on that. I think the biggest issue for me is just, the climate is evolving at this point. We're seeing, I think the last 5 years are 5 of the 6 hottest years on record in California. So we're seeing increased heat. We used to have brush fire seasons maybe in October through January or December. Now we're seeing heat of 119 degrees just a few days after the 4th this year. So we're seeing extreme heat. The county fire officials will tell you that brush fire season is now year-round. We've had fires in October, December, and January. So we're seeing incredible destruction. And we're also seeing that these wildfires don't just burn hillsides, they burn flat areas as well. The Tubbs fire a year ago burned both hillside and neighborhoods that were flatter in topography. So areas throughout the city are at risk. I mean, I know a few years ago people said, well, fire tornadoes, has anybody seen one of those? Well, now we've seen that. December of last year, I think it was, the Thomas fire was the largest fire in history. Now you've got the fires that happened this year, they're now the largest in history. We have areas larger than the state of Delaware that have burned in the state. The other issue is there's no question that when you have legal fireworks, it is much more difficult to enforce the illegal, dangerous fireworks that are also being shot off at the same time. Our staff reported back after the 4th this year that when they're out there at night trying to figure out what's legal and what isn't, and in the dark it's pretty difficult to tell from the packaging all the time. So we need to be much more efficient. I'm not going to pretend that illegal fireworks are totally going to disappear right away. We know that cities, even where all fireworks are illegal, still have issues with illegal fireworks. But we need to up our game in terms of being able to enforce them, and it's going to be simpler if all fireworks set off by amateurs are illegal.
And I might also add, just because there hasn't been a serious injury here doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. The so-called legal fireworks have been known to misfire, go off sideways. There have been several reports of that happening. So to think that we are never going to incur an injury from these, we are really just denying the fact that they're dangerous. There are no safe fireworks at all. The term safe and sane was coined by the fireworks companies to market a product, and for many years people have believed they are safe. Anything that gets to be as hot as they are when they're set off is not safe. It's not safe to put in a child's hand. It's not safe to light and run. It's just not a safe product. And at some point, it could cause a serious injury. And many places, many companies know that if there is a risk of serious injury, they're going to stop selling or stop doing whatever it is that they're doing. And you don't see, you saw Samsung with their phones that were blowing up. They stopped producing that phone. They recalled them, and there weren't that many that blew up. But this is what we're faced with here, that a lot of times people think that because there hasn't been a fire or there hasn't been a serious injury, that it's not going to happen. And we're really living on borrowed time, because it is going to happen at some point, and then we're going to be very sorry.
We had a house this year, actually, where some safe and sane fireworks were left in a bucket. I don't think they adequately doused them. The fire department was called out to the smoldering fence. I mean, that same type of incident caused a full loss of a house further up in Northern California. So things do happen, incidents do happen. We had reports this year in Royal Oaks Park of some of the, I guess what I call less dangerous fireworks, the consumer fireworks, misfiring. So we know that things can happen. At some level, all fireworks are unsafe and they create risk. And I think we have enough experience in this community with fire. We've lost access to Fish Canyon Falls. People are facing loss of renewal on their insurance. We're facing higher utility rates in the states with all the fires we've had. That it's time to really make some changes. We kind of need to be proactive and really kind of get ahead of the game and try and control our risk.
Well, thank you to the two of you for not only your opinions, but for the research that you've shared with us today. My next question, fireworks are labeled safe and sane, and they're supposed to not leave the ground and are relatively safe, right?
Well, I guess what I would say is they're not supposed to leave the ground if they're set off on the ground. If somebody's throwing them or disposing of them carelessly, they can do tremendous damage. They're still a flaming object, probably over 1,200 degrees. So I would say that in that sense, they're not safe. They are dangerous if they are used as such. And again, if people follow very, very, very strict protocols, maybe they can manage it. But the reality is a lot of people don't, and that's why you end up with injuries even from safe and sane fireworks.
And also, if they were used the way they were intended to be used, it would be different, but we've totally lost control of the legal fireworks in this town. No longer are people using these in their own backyards or front yards. They're set off in the street all hours of the day and night. They're blocking traffic. They're making it impossible for people to celebrate the holiday the way that they want to because guests can't get in and out of their house. Guests don't want to come to your house. And it's just gotten so out of control. It's nowhere near what it should have been like. And if this had been controlled years ago, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here today. But the fact is that you cannot control it because you've got different people that are going to do different things. Alcohol comes into play with the holidays. All kinds of things come up, and it's impossible to control every person's actions. And so what we need to let people know is that it doesn't matter if one person is following the rules and another person is following the rules, that we are collectively not following the rules, and people are going to be getting hurt. It's affecting your neighbors. It's affecting veterans. It's affecting pet owners. It's affecting people's lives. And the use of consumer fireworks is hurting other people. And so we need to have some kind of compassion that when our actions start to hurt other people, we need to change those actions, and we need to update our traditions and update our behaviors so that everyone can enjoy the 4th of July.
I mean, I think a lot of people are forced really now to stay home. They either have to leave their home, take their pets, and risk that somebody's going to throw something crazy on the roof to burn their house down, or they got to stay there, tranquilize their pets, try and keep them settled. I just want to say it's interesting to me, and I think that, again, going back to how I became more aware of this, I went over to Michelle's house, which is south of Royal Oaks. We actually have a dividing line in the city. With the exception of Royal Oaks Park, north of Royal Oaks, fireworks are banned. It's safe to say that most people north of Royal Oaks do not experience what I see in other neighborhoods south of Royal Oaks, that where all fireworks are banned, you see fewer of the outside illegal fireworks coming in. It's interesting to me that if fireworks are truly safe, or I should say safe and sane fireworks are truly safe for everyone, it would seem to me they would be allowed in the entire city. I think people a long time ago figured, you know what, they're not entirely safe, they can be misused. So you have that dividing line in the city where north of Royal Oaks, you end up with much less in the way of illegal fireworks. You end up with hardly any of the citations being given out. We have a total dividing line in terms of what happens in South Wardy. On the 4th of July, citations being issued, mortars being set off, and massive discomfort and risk being created for all the surrounding areas.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to my next question for the two of you. What about illegal fireworks? Those seem to be a big problem in Dwardy, and I heard some of that here in your discussion. How will a ban on safe and sane affect illegal use?
I'll start with that. I think first of all, as our own public safety department has pointed out, if all fireworks are illegal, if you see anything happen, you don't have to spend your time at night looking at the labels to see is this safe or is this sane, because people will shoot them off together and then they'll try and point to the ones that are legal to divert attention and to avoid citation. I'll say cities like Los Angeles and Pasadena, they still have some illegal fireworks. Illegal fireworks are a growing problem throughout the nation. They're being imported and they're a big problem. I will tell you, in cities like Los Angeles and Pasadena, they're still adamant that fireworks should be illegal, that they are dangerous. And I know whether it's Mayor Tornick or Mayor Garcetti, they believe that fireworks are hazardous and that they should all be illegal. That's not to say that illegal fireworks still aren't a problem, but they're a worse problem, as we see in our own city, where you also have safe and sane allowed.
We also see, we've heard from police officers from towns where fireworks are banned, And they say they do not have the illegal problem that we do, because it's harder for people to hide themselves in those towns. And so they all come to towns where fireworks are legal. It's easier to hide there. We've shown that in our drive-through video that we shot on the 4th of July. We've got at least 3 instances there where it shows a citizen setting off so-called safe and sane fireworks, followed by an illegal firework. So you've got people that are doing both of these things, and it's easy to hide them, because if someone comes through, they just stick to the legal ones. And if nobody's around, they can shoot off the illegal ones. So it would affect the illegal use, because it would be so much easier to pinpoint. If you have 10 people on your block that like to shoot off fireworks, and 5 of them are doing both legal and illegal activity, when you eliminate the legal fireworks, you're only going to see the ones doing it illegally. It'll be a lot easier to cite those people. And when that happens, it's easier to catch them, it's easier to control them, and no one ever said it would disappear overnight. In fact, most of the research shows it takes about 3 years before you can really get something like this under control, before people learn to move on, that they're not going to be able to get away with that kind of behavior. And it's very apparent that it's in the city. We've shown it in our videos many times, and you can see illegal mortars going through trees, going through parking lots, going all over the town. So we want to get a control over it again. And something else that I think is important for people to understand is that we are not talking about the illegal activity that goes on all year long. I mean, probably every town has some people that shoot off illegal fireworks at some time or another. We are talking about the 4th of July. This is a major national holiday that everyone has a right to enjoy and celebrate the way they wish. And when these things are just chaotic everywhere, it's eliminating a lot of people's freedom to celebrate the way they want to. And some people's freedom to set them off should not impair someone else's freedom to have a peaceful 4th of July. So we have to remember that we are really affecting a national holiday for many people. They either have to leave town, like Mayor Fasana said, or they end up locked up in their houses, afraid to go outside because it's too dirty or too scary for them or whatever. So we have to remember this is a major national holiday. And as such, we are the city of health. We shouldn't be polluting our whole town every year the way that we're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to what Michelle said. Duarte really, at this point, is an outlier. There are a lot of cities that used to allow fireworks: Arcadia, Monrovia, Glendora. Right now, 49 cities of the 88 in Los Angeles County ban them. Most of the larger cities ban them. Troy, you've only got about 22% of the population in the whole county that lives in areas where some fireworks are legal. The county unincorporated area bans fireworks, and Supervisors Barger and Solis both support a Duarte Measure F, in part because they know the danger of fireworks. I know Supervisor Barger, when she worked for Supervisor Mike Antonovich, had to deal with the station fire, the loss of lives to firefighters that were created there. They've seen a lot of the devastation that occurs, but Supervisor Barger now represents an area that's within blocks of where we are selling fireworks that are legal in our city. Some of those fireworks make their way into the county unincorporated areas. Some of them can be taken into Monrovia. So it's a nuisance to our surrounding communities as well that make them illegal. And really down the road, I would hope that Azusa, if we ban them in Duarte, we would then have Azusa as the last foothill community that allows fireworks. Hopefully, if we set the stage, they too will not allow them, so it'll be harder to bring them in and then mix them with the illegal fireworks that we all put up with today.
And I also want to add that I'm not sure that it's understood that so many of our citations go to people from out of town. So this is not just the problem where our citizens are shooting off the legal fireworks and then shooting off illegal ones as well, but we are attracting people from other towns where it's not allowed to do the same. And 29 out of our 31 citations given out this year went to people who do not even live in Duarte. So we are asking people from other towns to come and create crimes here, and that can only lead to more crime and more problems. So 29 out of 31 citations is really a bit much, and it's got to be controlled better.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to ask this next question, but I do realize that you said some of this in your past answers, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and if you would like to add some more. We've all seen videos that pan the Los Angeles area on the 4th of July. There seems to be a lot of activity even in the areas where fireworks are banned. Why is that, and will a ban actually work?
Yes, a ban will actually work. It's worked in every town that's implemented it. Like I said, it's not going to eliminate every single instance. But what you see when you're seeing that pan over of the LA area is you are seeing probably 100 different professional displays going off in different towns and different cities. There's at least 50 in the big towns like Pasadena and downtown LA where they're having massive fireworks shows, right? And then the smaller towns like Monrovia and smaller towns are also having their public displays. So when you look at that huge pan of the city and you see all these fireworks going off, you're looking at so many public displays that it would be impossible to see any illegal activity among them. And in essence, if you really wanted to see the illegal activity, what should happen is the fireworks companies should take a plane, hire a pilot, fly above the towns that have safe and sane fireworks and show, what's going on there. Is this no different than what's going on in other places? Because Duarty's very small. And many Duartys can fit into that area where you see the whole LA area. And you would see, if was not a problem, they would be hiring pilots, they would be going up there, and you would be able to see that this is not it's not as bad as everybody's making it out to be, but it is as bad as everybody's making it out to be. So we need to get control on it, and the only way to do that is to ban fireworks and have public displays which are safer and shorter in duration. It's only going to last a half an hour. Something that's safer, cleaner for our town. We live in the city of health, and we really should be living up to that name.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to what Michelle pointed out. Those panorama shots encompass areas where you potentially have millions of people living. And if we look at the sky now, I mean, the missile that was shot off this week at Vandenberg, half the state can see that. If even down lower, if you have a flash of light, it can be seen by a lot of people through a camera. So it exaggerates the number of incidents you're actually seeing when you have a wide panorama shot like that, because the cameras will pick up flashes of light. But I think at a localized level, you have far fewer incidents in most areas. I'm not saying that some areas don't have isolated issues with fireworks. I know Pasadena has, even though they ban all fireworks. But again, I will make very clear, Mayor Tornick, for example, does not see making safe and sane fireworks legal as being part of the solution to the illegal fireworks. They know that they have to do even more in terms of holding property owners responsible for illegal fireworks, but that's in addition to not allowing any fireworks in the city.
And quite frankly, when you look at the cities that are around us, our immediate vicinity here in our community, and you look at the number of citations in the cities where they ban fireworks versus the cities where it's allowed, there's absolutely no comparison. The cities where it's banned, they have very, very few citations written. And the cities where it's allowed, they have a lot of citations written. It's public information. Anybody can go and get it. We've done it. We've researched it. There are charts and graphs that show this for anybody to see if they want to go to the website. And it's just no comparison. There's a definite relationship between allowing fireworks on a consumer level and having a lot of tickets written. And those tickets are impacting everyone in the town. You have to remember that this is a cost that is not being absorbed by the groups that are doing the fundraising. The city is picking up the tab for the police enforcement, extra fire department, watering the parks. All the expenses that are incurred because of this practice are getting passed along to the taxpayers. And they really should be taken out of the funds from the fundraisers, and that's not happening.
You know, I'm going to say the fireworks companies too throw up their hands at frustration at the illegal fireworks. Part of that is genuine. Part of that, I'm sure they'd rather that this stuff is not allowed into the state. But I will note that they actually manufacture some of those same pieces that are sold elsewhere in areas that are more remote, more rural. Some of those are the same products making it into California. So they have some good ideas in terms of how to identify. We should still take some of the ideas they've suggested. But I still think our best approach is to make all fireworks illegal in Duarty.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Next question. Celebrating the 4th of July is a patriotic holiday. Don't fireworks go hand in hand with that holiday in particular?
Yes, they do, but there's other ways to use fireworks there where everyone can have an enjoyable time. And fireworks are really costly. There are a lot of families in this town that couldn't even afford those if they wanted to. But I bet you those same families would love to have a public display where they could bring lawn chairs and blankets and have a picnic and listen to concerts in the park. So really, in terms of celebrating, what's important in celebrating is your friends and your family and being with those people. It's not whether you can set off fireworks in the street in front of you or whether you see a public display. It's the community, it's your family, it's your friends. And what we want most of all is safe. We want safety, and we want cleanliness, and we want everyone to be able to enjoy the holiday without running away from it. So it is important that we have such things so that everyone can enjoy the holiday.
I'll say for the 4th of July, obviously it is the day that we celebrate the birth of our nation. The initial fireworks displays probably were more professional public displays. They weren't individuals sitting around. They didn't have access to the individual fireworks when this nation was founded. There were more centralized displays that were being discussed and talked about. At some point later on, the ability to get fireworks into the hands of amateurs developed, and it's continued to this day. But I think changing based on the fact that our environment is changing. We have hotter weather today. We have drier climates. We got 4 inches of rain, I think, here in the last year. So I think it's evolving to where we can still celebrate the 4th. We can go back to professional displays set off by people that are trained and expert in what they're doing and minimize the risk. I mean, as part of it's about being resilient. We prepare for earthquakes. We prepare for fires around our homes. We don't put candles on our Christmas trees. This is another area of being more resilient, adapting to the times, recognizing the risk that's out there, recognizing it's hard to get insurance now after all the fires we've had recently, or for homeowners insurance. So it's adapting without totally losing the tradition of actually having professional fireworks.
And also, patriotism goes hand in hand with the word freedom. We hear this all the time, that we want to have our patriotic traditions and our freedoms. Well, there are plenty of cities and towns that have banned fireworks, and those people are still patriotic and they still enjoy their freedoms and they have fun, and there's no reason why we can't do the same. There's absolutely no reason why we can't do the same. We are in the minority in terms of banning fireworks. Most of the towns have already figured that out years ago. And it's time for us to evolve and become a better town and a better city. And the only way we're going to do that is by eliminating practices like this and going to something that's better.
Thank you. We're just about done, so hang in there, okay? We have 2 more questions that I'd like to ask you. The next one is, some people are wondering about the funds that are raised by fireworks sales, and you alluded to that in some of your answers. Don't Duarte youth benefit from the booth sales, and won't they be hit the hardest?
I'll start with that. Obviously, the funds are important to some of the organizations. From looking over the data the last 5 years, and I'll just start with this year, I think the organizations combined netted about $40,000. They're making, or they're bringing in on net about 25% of the gross revenues for fireworks. There are other ways to raise funds as well. I know some have talked about having an annual festival around the 4th of July, basically setting something up. Some of the churches, I know Immaculate Conception, for people to go there, they have a huge carnival there on Memorial Day every year. Bringing something like that in could also bring similar type revenues into the community and be operated in a safer manner. So I think there are choices. I've seen Kiwanis and Rotary, of which you are the president of Rotary, have evolved to another fundraiser this fall. I think it's next month in November.
It's coming up.
At Encanto Park. So there are other ways we can raise money. Other communities have evolved. They found other ways to raise funds. Fundraising is absolutely critical, and we know that actually with the new tax law that was passed, we know that more people are not going to be able to deduct their charitable contributions on their taxes. So we know that we have to be more cognizant as a community, regardless of fireworks, about raising funds for the very necessary activities and programs for our students. But I still think fireworks, when you look at $40,000 net a year versus $500,000 value for just one house in Duarte, or the millions of dollars that the county and the city and the state bore in terms of fighting the fish fire, it's still bad economically in terms of being a fundraiser.
And I might add that the longer we keep this fundraiser, the more a disservice we're doing to our youth, because it isn't making as much money as other fundraisers do. Like Mayor Fasana said, 25 cents on the dollar is not a lot of money to be making on a fundraiser that causes all these problems and is so controversial and divides the city. And all of the different towns that we talk to have fundraisers that make a lot more money, and they are all willing to sit down with us and tell us how they do it and share their information with us. All of them were eager. We've got golf tournaments, we've got holiday balls, we've got silent auctions, we've got all of these things that make as much money as he said all of our groups made, one group made in a year. And they're all willing to talk to us. They're all willing to help. So the notion that we can't do anything better is kind of an insult, that we can't do it better than just the 25 cents on the dollar. I mean, yes, we're going to have to change. People are going to have to change, and we might need to get people in who have a positive attitude and want to learn new things and want to teach our kids that there's more to fundraising than sitting in a booth or having their parents sit in a booth, that fundraisers should be good for the community and should teach children life skills. They should learn how to lead and how to organize and plan, and they should, actually the kids should know the damage that this is doing. I really firmly believe that if the kids knew all the damage it was doing to the community, they wouldn't want to sell them, because kids do have compassion. We've seen that in the news time and time again recently. And when they know that their actions are hurting other people, they're not going to want to do that kind of a fundraiser. And we've used them as an excuse for far too long. We don't need this as a fundraiser anymore. We need to move on to better things. We've got help from our neighboring towns, and there's just no reason not to move on and evolve into a better system.
Thank you. Okay, this is your wrap-up question for you. Is there anything else that you feel is important to mention regarding this measure and the upcoming election, November the 6th?
Well, I would like to mention that this is what they call a slate mailer, and this is an example of one I got a few months ago. But everybody's going to be getting these in the mail, all the voters. And this is not a voter guide as it says, okay? This is not a voter guide. This is a paid advertisement, and it's put out by a company. And there are 14 different ones of these. Whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, Latino voter, woman voter, there are all kinds of these slate mailers. And what their purpose is to get people to vote a certain way. And they will all be saying to vote no on this measure. And we don't want you to be deceived. We want people to understand that if they get a slate mailer, if they're not sure, look for the disclaimer. There's a disclaimer on every single one of them that says, this does not come from your political party. It is not endorsements from your political party. And it's in such small print, most people don't see it. But even these companies know that the time it takes you to open this up, look at it, and throw it in the trash, you've already been influenced. And their sole purpose is to influence voters. So we want our voters to know this, because we know that 14 different kinds of these are going to be mailed out in the mail, and they're all going to be saying the same thing, to vote against our measures. So don't be deceived. If you're not sure how to vote, use your ballot guide, read the arguments for and the arguments against, and make your own decision based on that.
Thank you.
I'll just add, there's a perception that when people look at those, that all these people on the slate mailer are all endorsing each other and supporting each other and supporting all the issues. Each of those parties, and not all, but most of them will actually pay for their slot on that mailer. So the company putting out the mailer makes the money. There's really no allegiance to any candidate, and if anything, they try and cover their bases by putting out product, as Michelle said, to Democrats, Republicans, women, to different niche markets out there, which, again, in this state, it is legal. It's somewhat misleading, but the fireworks companies have bought, I think, 14 of those, so they'll be coming out to homes. Obviously, they have more funding, I think, than what we have in terms of putting out arguments why people should ban fireworks. I would just say that I think this decision, elections do matter. People talked about that over the last few years. This election will matter in terms of whether Duarte continues with fireworks or whether we move forward with the ban and put in another fundraising opportunity that allows us to move forward, to evolve, and use our imagination about having a better community. So I too would ask people to look at their voter guides. We do have the website, DuarteBanFireworks.com. They can go there. We do have real endorsements from leaders such as Mayor Eric Garcetti, Supervisor Catherine Barger, Supervisor Hilda Solis. I've endorsed this measure. My colleagues on the City Council, Sam Kang and Margaret Finley, are also endorsing the fireworks ban. And again, some of us have sold these things, but we realize it's time to move on. The world is changing around us. The climate is changing. We need to do something that's better and healthier for our community.
And also, this is a chance for Duarte to make history, because the fireworks companies usually win these elections. In fact, they've won every election like this in the last 15 years. So this is a chance for people who may not normally vote, who feel strongly about this, to go out and vote. It's a chance to make history. It's a chance to do something good for our town and not let a big corporation influence our voters and buy our votes. And so the most important thing is to be informed, read your ballot, make a decision, and go and vote.
Thank you to both of you for sharing your passion, your opinions, and your research. It really has been an eye-opener for me, and hopefully the people that are viewing this will also learn about Measure F and think carefully and review their ballots and vote on November the 6th. Thank you to
Thank you,
both
Lydia.
of you.
Thank you.